Hi everybody, welcome to chapter 6 of Elements of Programming. It's been a long time, I'm happy to see you. So today we're going to cover about chapter 6. I'm going to upload all the slides. There's two parts of the slides, but we'll cover this video in a series of a couple sessions, right? So let's go into the slides and let's check it out for chapter 6, right? So most of chapter 6 today, we're going to talk about control structures and repetition. Right? So one of the important things that we'll be talking about is functions and parameter declarations, function stuff, function templates, and returning a single value, right? So if you look into this chapter, at the end of this chapter, you should be able to design and implement functions, become familiar with the concept of parameter passing, appreciate the importance of functions, and the function commands, develop some strategies of decomposing complex tasks into simpler ones, basically, right? So simple idea here, what is a function? A function is a sequence of instructions, right? So you can have a sequence of instructions that you put into a particular function, and based on what kind of input you give it, it will return some kind of output, right? And we can see from this picture over here, we have a bunch of inputs coming in, and this is our function machine, or rather it's more like a machine that you're trying to create here, and it'll produce some kind of output altogether, right? So functions, right? All C++ programs contains functions, right? And the main function especially, where all the any program would start, right? You may have an unlimited number of functions, right? Depending on the memory stack. And also you have you can have all kinds of functions inside your main functions, right? So the major programming concern when creating functions is that how does a function interact with other functions? So there must be a way. This whole point of having function is that you can call it, right? You can have it call and it will run a sequence of code for you, right? And how to correctly pass data to it, right, as for input, and correctly getting the output that you want to get, right? So this is some of the major concerns when you're thinking about creating functions, right? So function call process, basically in a function call process, you give it a function name, you pass the data to the function as an argument or parameters in a parenthesis, right? So you would have a function, for example, make pancake, right? And to make a pancake, basically you have a bunch of instructions of making pancake, but you require some kind of things that are required to make the pancake, right? So this is the parameters that you pass in as an input. That would be an amount of flour that you require, the eggs that you require, and the milk that you require, right? So all of these parameters might have their own data type. As for this example, we have a double data type, amount flour, integer data type for amount eggs, and a double amount milk, right? All right. So so for each function that you use, and you have to declare it first, right? With what we call a declaration, a function declaration, right? And and basically, some parameter declaration for each data that you use. You need a particularly a parameter declaration, and this is basically the type of data type that you're gonna have in your function, right? So this is one example. So all of the parameters that you're calling basically would have a some kind of a argument here and the data type that you'll be sending and returning, right? Now, for example here, here's an execution flow of a particular function, right? And for example, the power function, this is something that's implemented in the CMath library, and it would look something like this, right? So you have a main function, and you would pass uh, two particular numbers, right? One could be a double number, and the other could be an integer, right? And when you call the power function, basically it will use one number and basically times it three times, right? Or 2 to the power of something, right? And you would wait for the result, and the result will come out, right? So you can implement this in several manners. Like you can, for example, use a loop or a while loop to have it times multiple 3 times, right? Okay. So function and parameter declarations, right? So one of the things that you require is the what we call a function declaration or prototype, right? So after we have some kind of the function um, function parameter declaration, but the function declaration is what we call a prototype. Now it will basically define the type of data type the function will return in value. If there's no value that's being written, so it's going to be a void, right? The function name itself and the parameters that it's going to send. So this is particularly for the function declaration for the prototype. So and then you can have your program here, and the program, for example, here is to find the maximum of two numbers, right? So you can look into this program, you can try and write it out, and maybe see what kind of function that you need, right? So here you call the particular function. So you get an output, enter a number, and then we'll ask for the number, and then see out again to ask for the second number, and then you can process those two parameters that you have gotten, right? And you would simply call the function by using the function name find max, using the first integer and the second integer that you as parameters, right? Now can you guess what is missing here? Anybody? All right, yeah, you don't have the function implementation, right? So you have to write the function to find which one is maximum, right? So maybe we'll leave this to for Simon or something that you can play around with, right? Please try it out, right? Now the function 6.1 is not complete, right? And find max must be written and added, right? You can see this maybe later in slide number 17. We got stuck here, right? And you don't know how it would look like overall as for trying to find the maximum, right? Right, but basically if you write this program right, and using slide number 17, right, where you are able to find the maximum, you would basically get an output of your program should be able to get the maximum value, right? And the output should be the maximum of two numbers is max num, right? Whatever number that is bigger, right? So it's okay, right? Now we're gonna re-look back into the function prototype, right? It's basically a declaration statement for a function, right? So you would declare what kind of functions that your program actually have, right, in the beginning of the few lines of code that you have written, right? So right, before a function is basically called, it must be declared, right? Otherwise it doesn't know who to call, right? So it's nice to say that what kind of functions actually exist in your program, and this is where we do it in the function prototype, right? So the function prototype basically provides several infos, right? Basically the type of values to be returned and the type and order of values the calling function should pass the data to the call function, right? So even the order of value is kind of important here, right? Because you can see in the function, the parameter types are very well defined, right? So the first entry, the comma, the second entry. So the order of this is kind of important, right? And in this case, you can see here that there's two integers, right? So if the front one is a double, then the order of it is really depending on whether you give it a double value or integer value, right? Void here meaning that you have nothing to return, right? Or there's nothing that you're returning back, right? So it's just a empty function that doesn't really returns a value, right? And the program basically expect two types, two integers, right? Okay, so if you look into this program, there is a include statement in the beginning of the code, and you can see that, right? Include IO stream. This is basically to use for the cout and cin to be able to read the code, right? Right? And okay. Right. The the calling function, right? So calling the function is easy. Basically, you would have the function name and you would have the variables that you want to put in, right? So the function type, function prototype has declared that it would take some kind of integer, two integers basically. And when you're calling it, basically you need to put variables inside those parameters, right? That's in the bracket that you see there, right? So a function is defined when it is written, right? So it's pretty easy to use. You write the function, you declare the function, and you can use it. And basically, the function itself has a function header that identifies the data type and the name, right? So you could look at this. This is the sorry. Right? If you look at this, you can have this the function header. This is the where the name is and the parameter is, right? And the function body, right? And it returns basically one value if it returns a value. If it's void, it doesn't return anything, right? So you can see that you have a function and it works like just how your main program would look like, right? But it's like a sub program of your main function, right? So you have some kind of statements here, and any other C statements that you can put in. You can call other functions as well in a function, so your function can call another function, right? And right, and whatever the value is, you can cout or anything that you want, right? So it's also able to store value in the program there, right? So we'll cut the session for now, and we'll continue back in the next presentation video, right? Hope to see you soon. Bye.